Hi everyone, welcome to Module 5. For Module 5, you're going to be reading chapters 8 through 10. You have your presentation and the MyEcon Lab work for this week. With the presentation, let's click on that. Let's focus on what we're looking at. With the presentation, you're going to pick one of these. Demographics, history of a company, elasticity, you're going to pick a company and you're going to focus on these 5 areas. So pick companies that have information present. That's very important to do. If they have information that's present, this project will be much easier. You're going to do 5 separate things that you're going to focus on in terms of the company. You're going to present 10 to 15 slides, use a minimum of 4 references, and with your PowerPoint presentation, you want to put your notes in the bottom, not in the slide actually. So on the PowerPoint, you're going to put them in the detailed speaker notes. This is where most of your content will go. Please make sure to not put all of your content in the slides, because when you do that, you're taking away from the presentation of your slides, which is very important. Make sure that you have APA formatting in your slides, which includes in the detailed speaker notes to help with your efforts. Now, let's go over Chapter 8 first. Chapter 8 is important because it's a monopolistically competitive market, a market that's served by many firms that sell slightly differentiated products. When you look at this market structure, do not think of monopolies, because that's what most people think of, which creates a lot of problems. Monopolistically competitive firms is a market structure that there's many buyers and sellers that sell slightly differentiated products. When the products are slightly differentiated, you can charge a different price, which is very important. Now, when you look at market entry in these firms, you'll notice these firms will face a lot of competition. The reason why these firms will face a lot of competition is because there's not many firms that are able to enter the market. There's a lot of firms that can enter the market and differentiate themselves. When you look at monopolistic competition, product differentiation is the most important. Products that are slightly different can charge a different price. When we looked at perfect competition, you notice that the products were very similar. Given that the products were very similar, that caused us more ability to not charge different prices. When you look at this right here, you're going to notice that this is a downward sloping demand curve and marginal revenue curve. That is what a monopolistically competitive firm is facing. Now, with a perfectly competitive firm, it was a horizontal demand curve. And when it was a horizontal demand curve, that meant the demand curve did not change, as these firms are called a price taker. These firms are going to operate where marginal revenue equals marginal cost right here. And it goes up to where it hits the demand curve right here. This is the price that's going to be charged in the market, and this is the output level. This tells you nothing more than where you should draw the horizontal line. When you look at this, you want to find where it hits. So you want to look at right here is where it hits the demand curve, and this is the price that it actually is charging and making the products. When you look at that, the product is, they're selling it for $1.40, they're making it for $1.40. The firm is classified as breaking even. A good competitive market that we can focus on is Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. You notice that they sell very similar products. Given that they sell very similar products, they differentiate themselves just slightly. When they can differentiate themselves, they can charge prices that are different in the market. And that's very important to evaluate. Products that are slightly different, you can charge a different price. When you look at perfectly competitive firms, they were not able to charge a different price in the market because the products were identical. Here is where perfectly competitive firms operated. You'll notice that the marginal revenue curve is right here. Marginal revenue equals the demand curve. equals the price. It is called a price taker or horizontal market, where MR equals MC. This is where they would operate at right here. You'll notice that these firms are not going to be able to differentiate the products that they're selling. Given that they're not going to be able to differentiate their products, they can't charge different prices. Whereas a monopolistically competitive firm, they can differentiate their products. And when they can differentiate their products, they can charge different prices in the market. Let's go to the next market structure, which is oligopoly. An oligopoly is a market structure that's focused on a market that's served by few firms. When there's few firms in the market, you'll notice that these firms can watch each other when making pricing decisions. That's very important to evaluate. So firms will really focus on what others are doing, and they'll do this through what's called price leadership. Price leadership is something that's very important in markets. When one firm does something, it will start the opportunity for other firms to follow in the market. And if you look at this right here, you'll notice, what is the 4-firm concentration ratio? This means, what is the top 4 firms in the market? What percentage of the market do they control? So let's look at cigarette manufacturers. The top 4 firms in the market control 95% of the whole market. Breakfast cereals, top 4%. Top 4 firms, I should say, control 82% of the market. That's a large amount. What that means is those top 4 firms are going to be watching each other because there's not many to focus on. These are some of the strategies that oligopolies are going to use. And they're going to use this thing called dominant strategy with that price leadership. Dominant strategy is focused on where one firm can make a decision in a market. And when one firm makes a decision in the market, how does that influence other firms? Dominant strategy is very important. Firms will take actions based off what occurs in the market. So a dominant strategy, very indicative of what happens in markets. So these are some of the concepts that we're going to be focusing on this week. If you have any questions or you need me to pre-grade your presentation, let me know as I look forward to your effort.